All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Study Abroad workshop for biological science and neuroscience majors. We're excited that you're all joining us today. We're very excited to have Colleen Gray from the Study Abroad office, as well as two students, Claire and Ida, who will be contributing to the presentation today. My name is Pat. I'm one of the advisors in biological sciences and neuroscience. I'm also joined by my colleague Jennifer, who's also one of the advisors for biological science and neuroscience. So for today, as a reminder, we're going to be giving you a brief overview of the study abroad process that Colleen and I will be co-leading. And then after that, you'll have a chance to ask questions. And once we've finalized that, then we'll proceed to the student presentation. So you'll hear from both Claire and Ida, who will share their experiences. And then after they share their experiences, all of you will have a chance to ask both of them any questions that you have about their experience. So we're very excited for this. And Colleen, why don't you get started?
Hi, so my name is Colleen Gray, and I'm one of the assistant directors in the Study Abroad office. And we all kind of represent different colleges, but I'm the college liaison for the harder sciences in liberal arts and the LAS department. Let me see. So what we're going to do today is review like what Pat just said was go over the study abroad process, and then we will hear from students who have studied abroad in their experiences. So a little bit about our office. We are a small but mighty team. We are a team of five who provide services for all 35,000 students here at UIC. We oversee different parts of the world. So if you want to go on a study abroad program in Southeast Asia, for example, you would work with one person versus another. All of us have a lot of experience studying abroad, but we've all worked abroad and lived abroad. So we are really here to help support you moving forward. And we've also been there where the times when we have been abroad and, we realize that, oh, I want to come home. So the process of us having gone through it is that we're here to make sure that to prepare you, but also, support you while you're there and when you come back home as well. So we have a lot of programs. We like s- when students approach me, they're often like, "Well, where can I study abroad?" And I say, "Where do you want to go?" Because we have, and I would say almost close to 400 programs in almost 70 different countries, and you kind of have the whole world to choose from. We have programs from tropical ecology to doing something in Iceland for sustainability. So there's really, when you're thinking about studying abroad, think about where you see yourself. And if you don't know, that's fine. We're here to help guide you. There are a lot of benefits to studying abroad. I like to focus on like the personal a lot because I feel like that's where I personally grew the most was when I started going abroad. I started developing more self-confidence in myself. I studied abroad in Malaysia for my first time and trying to even just get to Malaysia, it was 3 or 4 flights that I had to go on and really have to start trusting your gut instincts. And, it's okay to make mistakes and learning from them. And having that process really allowed me to kind of find out who I was on the inside. So personally, you will develop new goals, or you might find something that you're, newly interested in, new passions. You might change your major depending on the program that you go on, because you might experience something that you enjoy, or maybe you don't. This is a great opportunity to try something to see if you would want to do that in the field. And developing intercultural competency is something that you'll do automatically when you're abroad because you're going to be interacting with different people. You're going to be in an international setting, learning with people that are not from your same background. In addition to the personal benefits, professionally, you're expanding your network beyond just like, LinkedIn, but having these real in-person interactions in that you're going to be able to meet professors that you would never have met, here. And those kinds of relationships can open your network and make it wider and wider. And maybe one day you end up, you know, calling back to a professor that you went on a study abroad and they realize that you would be a great fit for their institution here in Spain when you went abroad. So you get that real world experience, but it's also overseas. And You will develop, again, transferable soft skills, and these are things that you learn while you're interacting with people, and it'll come out when you're communicating about your study abroad experience. And academically, you will be earning UIC credit while you're abroad. It'll add another international dimension to it. And you will learn how different approaches are used depending on where you go. You could be learning a whole new way of doing research, or you could also, your discipline could be, for example, different in or broken up differently than how it is here. And I feel like that is also a really great benefit because again, you're able to learn more about things that you're interested in, but then also how vast that might be as well. Um, Pat, I think this is I could do this one, but I think this is usually your slide. Oh, you're on mute. You're
You
still
can
on mute.
quickly
There.
summarize this one, and then we can move forward. Do you want to just quickly summarize this, Colleen?
Yeah. Um uh like basically when you are applying for jobs, and there's been more research that has come out, but the most research that has come out is that freshmen that come out, or not freshmen, undergrads that graduate end up earning $4,000 more than their counterparts if they studied abroad versus those that did not. And that's just like one little example because you are showing that you are adaptable, you're flexible, you're going to have a lot of problem solving skills. And these are the kind of skill sets, again, that you learn while you're traveling, while you're navigating a culture that might not be from your own, and you're really becoming, your own self, outside of what you're normally within the same university that you've been going to. But that really is the different kinds of leadership skills that come out. And I really like it's the interpersonal skills and communication that come out of these like little that you can highlight when you're applying for jobs. And people know this when you're applying for jobs. Employers notice that study abroad is going to add a different component to your skill set.
All right. So for students here, one of the things that I want to emphasize is why it is such a benefit for students, and certainly Ida and Claire are going to be able to also articulate that since they have experience going abroad and have been impacted in a positive way. But there's many reasons why you should consider studying abroad, specifically as a student in one of these two majors. So as you can see on the screen, there's a few things I want to highlight. Number one, it will just expose you to different ways of thinking, different approaches, different perspectives, and that's just always a wonderful way to grow as not just like a student, but as a human being. And I think when you get to learn the stories that Claire and Ida will share, I think you'll really see that shine in some of their, the way that they explain how they were impacted. I think it's one of the things that in general is invaluable, to get exposed to different things. I think when you go abroad, you're kind of forced to go out of your comfort zone and experience something brand new. And I think that's always a benefit. It's also going to be really good from a scientific lens, too. I think it's great to get scientific perspectives in different cultures of different countries because not everyone does things the same. And it doesn't mean like one way is better than the other. I think it's really helpful to hear from scientists who are taught in different countries in the U.S. and you can get some perspectives and learn from them in ways that maybe you wouldn't necessarily got in here. So I think that also can be very valuable. It's also really easily incorporated into the curriculum for both biological sciences and neuroscience. There's a lot of electives and flexibility that we offer students when they're going abroad. We are very lenient when it comes to when students are going abroad for biology coursework or neuroscience. We do our best to try to accommodate because we really want students to go and study abroad. And we don't want to penalize them if there's not necessarily like an exact articulation for a course. We want to be like, oh yeah, this is relevant enough. We'll absolutely count it. So we can certainly give students the benefit of the doubt, and certainly we encourage you all to really, feel that from myself and Jennifer's lens, we will do everything in our part to help you incorporate requirements if you want to utilize experiences toward the major. It also is a great experience for you to have like hands-on approaches to learning. A lot of the courses that are abroad are very like different than your traditional lectures here. And I think a lot of the learning, and you may hear this from Clara and Ida, is sometimes outside the classroom, but also it just is very engaging because you're living in a different culture and different country, and you're learning in that country. I think you'll notice it's really easy to feel more of a sense of hands-on because you're not always like trapped in a lecture. You can like experience what you're learning where you're at, depending on where you're located in whatever country you're studying. And then, like I said, I kind of mentioned this already. It's just a tremendous opportunity for growth. It really forces you outside of your comfort zone. And to me personally, that's probably what I would imagine is one of the most valuable things to go abroad, is that it really like forces you to go out of your comfort zone. And I think that's a really valuable thing for students to grow, is to kind of expose and push themselves past their limits or what their perceived limits are. You can go to the next slide. All right, so a little bit about our team. So all of you have the opportunity to connect with myself and Jennifer, and then Steve, who's our other biology and neuroscience advisor. So this is just a little bit about our team. There's 3 of us total. You can meet with any one of us to discuss your interest in study abroad. So please feel free to meet with us. Obviously, we encourage you to meet with the study abroad advisors as well. But for us, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, like we definitely help you a lot when it comes to how to plan out your experience and answer specific questions about when you should go, what kind of coursework should you be focusing on, things like that. But we will be very helpful in your process of kind of exploring your options for study abroad. This is Dr. Park. He's one of our faculty. He's a big advocate for students to study abroad, and I think it's nice for students to hear from faculty about their perspectives. And Colleen will touch on this later in the presentation, but we have a lot of faculty-led study abroad programs. So UIC faculty are huge advocates of study abroad, and will go out of the way to try to help students explore that opportunity. So for Dr. Park, if you can look at this quote here, if you look at successful biologists, you'll see that they collaborate around the world. A study abroad experience exposes students to how biologists network and share technologies, ideas, and cultures. This experience can be empowering and transformative, both professionally and personally. So faculty, not just advisors, really love when students, are considering going abroad, because it is an excellent way for you to develop as a scientist, and especially if you're interested in biology or neuroscience, you're going to be better for it as a student, and also as a budding, scientist or a health professional, whatever you end up pursuing for your career. So one of the things that the Study Abroad office came up with is what's called the Major Guide, and this is an awesome tool for all of you. We have the link or the direct web address there. This is an opportunity for you to kind of have a centralized place to explore study abroad. There's a lot of really good tools on this website. So as you can see, there's guidance from advisors as well as peers and faculty, and then also it will highlight specific programs, which we'll mention today, some of them, but it's a very nice starting place for you to kind of look at some of the common programs that some of our students will do. Now, as far as options, students, you have a lot of ways you can explore study abroad. So these are just a few of the options. As you can see, one of the things you can do is you can pursue a summer or semester-long program to focus on completing specific requirements within the major. So whether you're a neuroscience major or a biological science major in one of the 3 concentrations, there will be options for you to pursue coursework that's directly related to your major. You can also explore summer programs. Sometimes summer programs are a little more viable for students, depending on kind of where they're at in their journey. So summers are very accessible, and you can also pursue internships, research opportunities, community engagement. So there's a lot of flexibility with the types of courses that you have at your disposal as well. Research specific programs, and I think Colleen may mention this a little bit later, they're not as common, but they're definitely there. And I actually, when she talks about, she had a research element as part of her experience, which was really cool. And I believe Claire as well in her experience did too. So there's definitely opportunities to be able to get research experience as a study abroad student. And then another thing too is you don't have to feel like, as a biology or neuroscience student, you don't have to feel like you have to study your major abroad. And I Colleen mentioned that, like, you can easily go abroad if you want to just take a bunch of gen eds, or maybe you're pursuing a minor or another major and you want to explore classes in those realms. Like, you absolutely can go abroad for something that's not your major. And Jennifer and I are very supportive of that. We don't try to force students to take major coursework. We want you to go abroad in whatever you feel like is going to be in your best interest. And we're willing to work with you in whichever lens you want to explore. You want to take it away, Kelly?
Yeah, I had to find my unmute button. So there are different kinds of programs and that we're going to touch upon, but there are three different main categories that we have for study abroad. The first is the faculty directed programs. These are the most popular programs that our students go on. They're short term. You go with a UIC faculty member, and you go with other UIC students as a cohort. We have spring break and summer options, and we're always adding new programs. So these change year to year, depending on, a faculty's availability. But you earn UIC credit while you're abroad. So this is if you're looking for an experience, if you have not traveled before, this is a really great opportunity to start moving forward. Also, a lot of you are might be pre-med and might not be able to take a whole semester off. Our faculty directed programs are a great way to have that experience abroad. And again, you don't necessarily need to do a bio-centered one, but you could be doing some gen eds on a faculty directed program, like learning Spanish or, even taking a nursing or kinesiology program. So most of our students do to go on our faculty directed programs. The other type of program that we have is like a partnership one. And these would be if you're doing like a whole like a summer or semester like program, and they're like an all-inclusive. It includes housing, and the partnership model is also quite popular. And both Claire and Ida went on partnership programs. So I'm sorry if it's loud. I'm there's my this is my radiator right now. Um, so sorry. So there we work together on you taking classes at a local university and at a study center, and you'll get UIC credit as well. The different final model is the exchange, and this is the most immersive experience. And this is where you would be basically an international student studying at a partner university. And what's different from the partnership versus the exchange, the partnership's including your housing and your tuition and everything's kind of, you have support, you have field trips usually guided for you. The exchange is you're going to be by yourself. The partnership model comes with other students that are going to be on the program from, different parts of the United States. Exchange, you might be the only person there. So the exchanges are smaller. We don't have that many exchanges. So we have like 300 partnership ones, but only about 8 different exchange universities. And what's really helpful with the exchange programs is that if you have traveled before, because you will have to find housing, and then I'm here to help guide you, but you're responsible for finding more of the finer details you have to sort out by yourself versus having it already organized with a partnership. Go here. So some examples that we have for faculty directed programs, and I'm going to go into this one a little bit further. I have a slide for it after this, but we have a field ecology one in the Galapagos. Other ones that we have, like we have a social justice, identity, and language in Oaxaca, where you can earn 7 credits in, if you have a Spanish minor, or if you're looking to get, explore, identity. We also have a program of biomaterials and sustainable energy in Barcelona. This is a more of an engineering focused program. But again, if you're on, some of you are double majors and might be interested in learning a little bit more, this could be again towards your general credits. And then this spring break, we have this ecological farming in the Caribbean one. And that is a newer program. And I think what's really great about this is it's a spring break. So again, that 1 week immersive experience that you get while you're also taking a course and earning credit towards so you'll work your way up in that course, then go on the spring break program together. And you'll go with the cohort that you've been meeting with the entire semester. I want to spotlight this one because this is also I help with this program, the Galapagos program. It's You earn 6 credits in a 3 week, a 3 week research term, basically from July 16th to August 7th. You'll be doing actual research and actual research that's useful because they use the data that you guys like collect to help identify all of the other animals that you'll be doing. So there's sea turtles. Sometimes you do work on lizards. It kind of depends on each year. I know for sure this year is definitely sea turtles. Um, but you go with Dr. Corinne Nelson, and it's really, if you really want to know if this is like the field for you, this is a really great opportunity to have it. And I actually am surprised this year we already have 16 students already start their application for this program. Usually it's a little bit of, because bio is a little bit of a smaller major, but I'm impressed that there's definitely an interest in going. And if you are interested in learning more about it, you can reach out to me or you can reach out to Dr. Nelson. But we're both here to talk to you about the kinds of programs that we have. A little couple examples of semester-long programs, like we have a University of Minnesota program that's in Spain, where you're going to do psychology and research in Madrid. We have a neuroscience program in Copenhagen. You can do tropical ecology in Panama. We have like looking at rainforest reef, like looking at different kinds of ecological in Australia. And we have, a Spanish, where you can do a Spanish immersion and environmental studies in Costa Rica. So you can kind of do more than one thing when you're on these programs. And one thing I do want to highlight is that in addition to study abroad, and earning UIC credits, you could be adding internships. A lot of the program partners have the opportunity for you to, add a 3 credit internship where you can, again, have that real world work experience when you come back and earn credit for it. And you don't need to know a foreign language. They're usually always looking for English speakers. You can also add research to your program. So even if your program isn't necessarily all research, there is usually a good portion of programs that have an additional research component that you can add into it. Again, getting that time in a lab. Service learning is another opportunity where you're kind of giving back to the community. And again, you could be earning credit while you are contributing ethically to, volunteering. And it's a really great way to immerse yourself in the local culture. And if you're an honor student, or if you have a capstone, you can start doing your research either before, during, or after when you're there. This might be an opportunity for you to start thinking about your research, but some students have gone on and done the capstone while they're abroad and doing their research and getting prepared for it. So it's just something to keep in mind that you can do a lot more than just earning credits towards your degree. And then as far as international internships, they're all unpaid, but you can earn academic credits. So they are unpaid, but they will help you find your internship. Um, and there are internship opportunities that are like full time. You could just do a full time. You could go on a program and just do an internship for a semester. You can also add in an internship. Make it a hybrid. The partners that we work with, they've helped place you into an internship. So again, it's like you explaining what it is that you're looking for, and they'll help find you an internship placement. But if you go in a program that says they will help you find an internship, they are guaranteeing that they'll find you something in your field. They also have people there that you'll be paying for that will be supporting you while you're learning. So if you have questions about your internship, you'll have a class that you'll be attending where you can have these discussions, but you also get a career coach out of it. So how to sell your study abroad experience. And it's a lot of professional development opportunities, and again, ways to try to like increase your sellability and where you see yourself in the future, whether it's to move forward with a master's or a PhD program or to enter the field. You'll still have that internship to kind of look back to and refer to as having that experience abroad. As far as funding study abroad, if your financial aid can be applied. And then we also have scholarships. So our office has our own study abroad scholarships. If you're in an honors college, they have their own. LAS as a whole has scholarships for LAS students only that are for study abroad. We also help you write scholarship essays. I have scholarship workshops where if you are wanting to apply for more competitive ones, like we have the Gilman that where you can get up to $5,000 and additional $1,000 if you're doing doing STEM research. We do programming here in our office where we will explain how to answer those questions, but we will also review your essays, and we have that on our scholarship page. So you might be intimidated by a price, but also remember that there is a whole team in our office that's here to help you succeed and to not count yourself out. And if it's your first year here, whether your first year as a freshman or your first year as a transfer student, you can apply for the Navigator Scholarship as well. And that is for first year, first gen students. So if you're a first gen student and it's your first year at UIC, you can apply for it. If you have questions, you can email me about scholarships. That's what I'm here for. But in general, I would think we only sent like 350 students abroad last year, and they earned $129,000 in study abroad scholarships. And that's a lot of money. So people are walking away with having at least one scholarship, if not additional scholarships from program partners, from nationally competitive ones, and then, within your own department. Um, I just reviewed the Navigator Scholarship one, but yeah, if it's your first year, first gen, whether you're first freshman year or you're a transfer student, you can get a seed money scholarship. So, and this will close April 1st. So if you have questions, let me know, and I can send you the link on how to apply. The amount of money that you get depends on how long the program is or how expensive the program is. That's the only range it is. Like if you go on a short-term program, you'll get 1,600, but if you're going on a semester long one, you'll get 2,600. And then the Gilman is that we get a lot of students who apply for the Gilman, and the Gilman is a competitive one, and the only requirement is that you are a U.S. citizen or resident and that you receive the Pell Grant. That was really what kind of, if you don't receive the Pell Grant, you can't apply for the Gilman, but if you do, this is a lot of money that you could be earning. And we do get students every semester that receive this. And it's very attractive for STEM students to apply because there's an additional $1,000 that you can apply for doing research in labs. And that's a newer component to the scholarship.
All right.
Um,
So, in the interest of time, we'll go pretty
yes.
quickly through this last part so we can get to the student presentations. But quickly, students, to get started, if any of you are not had started the process yet, but want to get started with study abroad after this session, the first thing you have to do is do a first step informational session, which is on the study abroad website. This will basically walk you through all the essential things that you need to know about the study abroad process. Once you've gotten through that, you'll get to talk with advisors. And so getting to meet with both your advisors in the study abroad office like Colleen, and then academic advisors like Jennifer and myself. This will help you kind of solidify what program's going to be in your best interest, and what time you would want to ideally go and what classes you would pick out too. And then after you finalize your program and you kind of know what you're honing in on, then you would ultimately like go through the actual process. In which there's a form that you would ultimately fill out that the study abroad would give you, and that's going to be the way that you're going to get your courses articulated and ensure that you are taking classes that are applicable to your degree. Now, just keep in mind this process can take up to 3 weeks. So it is important that if you do want to study abroad, especially in the summer or the fall, that you really make sure that you are not doing that too close to the deadline. So the deadline, as you can see here, for the program, not every program is the exact same, but a lot of the programs are mid-March. So definitely you would want to make sure that you're working it on these applications as soon as possible if you haven't started yet. And just know that Colleen and her team are here to support you with any questions along the way. Awesome. So now if you have any questions for us, we'll wait until the end of the presentation. We want to actually get to our students who I know you're most excited to hear from. So with that, we're going to start with Claire. So Claire, if you don't mind sharing your screen, and then you can get started with your experience.
All right. Hello, my name is Claire. I studied abroad in Costa Rica last year for a semester during the spring of 2025 on the CEA Kappa San Jose Spanish Language, Liberal Arts, and Environmental Sciences program. Okay, just some background on me. I study environmental biology. I'm currently in my fourth year, and I studied abroad in my third year. And I also work at the study abroad office as a peer advisor, so I meet with students. So if you have any questions about anything I'm saying, please let me know. I'm happy to help. And before I studied abroad, I was really unsure of what I wanted to do in biology, and I thought that this would be a great way to learn more about what my potential career path could be. So I had actually been to Costa Rica before on a faculty-directed study abroad program. It was 10 days in Costa Rica, and it was unrelated to biology, but because I went, I knew that I really enjoyed Costa Rica and wanted to spend more time there. So I decided to go back, and my goals for going to Costa Rica were learn Spanish, but be able to take environmental science courses in English. So I was still learning content related to my major, but it did not have to be in a different language. And to learn Spanish, I really wanted to live with a host family because I thought that living with a local family would be a great way to learn the language, the culture, and just have a really unique experience. And then before I talk about anything else, I want to talk about the financial aspect first because it is scary looking at the financial stuff. But for my program, it was about $10,000 for the whole semester. It was 3 months, and Costa Rica typically is a more affordable country. But yeah, the $10,000 included housing, tuition, food, and then excursions and little trips throughout the country. But with that 10,000, I received a few scholarships that greatly reduced it. So I received $2,600 for the Navigator Scholarship, $1,000 from the Study Abroad Office Scholarship Fund, and then any student who goes on a semester-long CEA Kappa program automatically gets $2,500 off of their application. So already it was less than $4,000 for me to do a semester abroad, again, including housing and food. And that's a lot cheaper than a typical semester at UIC is for me. So studying abroad can be cheaper than UIC is. But yeah, one of my favorite parts of my study abroad experience was my host family. I had a host mom, and she was in her 70s, and she had been hosting students for over 20 years. And I was her 419th student over 20 years. She loved hosting students. That was her favorite thing in the world. And she was so kind. There's pictures of her garden. Her garden was so beautiful and it was just so welcoming. The host families are amazing. They're the people that we went with, CEA Kappa in my case, they chose host families that had been used before. So she had hosted 419 students before. So she knew what she was doing. She had a lot of experience with this. There were three of us. So there's two roommates and me, and then our host mom. And me and my two roommates all had different dietary restrictions. And every day she would make meals for all three of our dietary restrictions. And if someone was in class late one day, she would stay up and eat dinner with us so that no one was eating dinner alone. She didn't speak any English, but it was an amazing way to learn Spanish. And we learned so much Spanish from talking to her, her family, her grandkids. They would always have family parties. So if you're really trying to learn a language, I think a host family is the best way to do it. And then as for my courses, I took four courses. So before I went abroad, I took French for 9 years. So I did not need to take language courses abroad, but I really wanted to learn Spanish. So you really don't need to take courses related to your major. I took Spanish 2 in Costa Rica. I tested into Spanish 2 with just 200 days of Duolingo, and that's all I had going into it. So you also don't really need to know another language to study abroad. You can learn it while you're there, and you also don't have to learn it. But yeah, so my Spanish class was an intensive Spanish class. For the first month I was there, we did the entirety of Spanish 2. So Monday through Friday, we met 3 hours a day and did Spanish courses. Then we would go home, practice our Spanish with our host family, and that was our assignments. Like the homework would be ask your host family about this, or translate one of your favorite recipes to Spanish, stuff like that. It was practical uses of Spanish that we were encountering every day as we were there. My other courses, the other three, were taught in English, so I didn't feel like I was losing out on anything content-wise. But with my course list, I was able to get 16 credit hours for the whole semester. So the same amount that you would get at a semester at UIC. I took freshwater ecology, which studied rivers and lakes throughout Costa Rica. And we would travel to different rivers and lakes as weekend field trips and then do water quality testing and other surveys of the area. And then at the end of the semester, we created a report, just a research report of everything we had learned throughout the semester. I also took Marine Mammals of Costa Rica and Marine Conservation of Costa Rica, which are classes you can't take at UIC. So I thought that was really cool too. And even though you can't take marine biology classes at UIC, you can still get credit for them. So that was a great way to learn more about oceans, including legislature and how climate change impacts the ocean and how that in turn impacts us still. And then we also had excursions with the group that we went with. So the school I was at had about 2,000 students total. And of those 2,000 students, about 500 of them were study abroad students. Of that 500 study abroad students, there were 15 students with the group that went with the CEA Kappa program. So that's what I went with. And that meant that there were 3 people on site at all times helping out CEA Kappa students. So if there was an emergency, you would just call that phone number, they would answer and be there right away. They helped us with housing placements, course issues, anything that we needed help with. And then during our first month in Costa Rica, we traveled throughout the country with them over the weekends. So the first month we went to 4 different places, and it was a great way to learn about the country quickly. So all this travel was also included in the program costs that I paid to get there. These are just some photos of my time abroad. Costa Rica is just an amazing place if you love nature or environmental science. We got to see so many amazing things that you can't see in the United States. So there's a Kemp's Ridley sea turtle, a sloth. The sloth's face is turned away. There's a poison dart frog that was just outside of our school. And it was crazy just walking outside of the school and seeing all these amazing things. There's a volcano that we hiked, and then there's a picture of us in a rowboat, and that is how we would collect research for my freshwater ecology class. So we would row and paddle down the river, and then we would find a sample site and collect our research. And then I think that the most important part for me was returning. I didn't think I would feel that way. And I think oftentimes when people are thinking about study abroad, they just think, oh, yeah, it's 1 semester abroad, then you go back to your normal life. But that was not the case for me at all. I wanted to really get involved with what I learned in Costa Rica and bring it back to Chicago with me. So I've continued learning Spanish, but also I've continued studying freshwater ecology, which I didn't really know was an option before I went to Costa Rica. So the first picture there is us at a waterfall in Costa Rica about to do our water quality testing. But then the rest are from me in Chicago. And when I returned in August, I started volunteering at a river restoration organization where we build these floating modules. You can see them in the middle picture. And then plants are planted in them, and then the plants assimilate the chemicals and help improve the water quality of the Chicago River. So I didn't really think that I could bring back what I learned in Costa Rica back to here, but that definitely has been the case. And I even just got a job working with river restoration in Chicago. So it's been amazing to take everything that I learned and kind of just gather it up and bring that new knowledge back with me. Yeah, these are just some other photos of my time abroad. If anyone has any questions about the program I did, scholarships, or anything, feel free to email me. And yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Claire. Class, we're gonna go to Ida next before we get to questions for either Claire and Ida. So, Ida, if you want to share your screen and get started with your presentation, you can go for it.
All right, let me share. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Ida. I'm a second year neuroscience student here at UIC. This past summer, so the summer between my first year and my second year, I was in Madrid. You with the oops. with the University of Minnesota Psychology and Research in Madrid program. Here I am going to talk to you guys about like how I kind of found it and then um so yeah, so this is how I found it. I kind of like was compiling my interests because I knew that I wanted to minor in Spanish for the health professions and experiences from like high school volunteering and stuff kind of made me really want to learn a language that's very accessible in my like especially in the Chicagoland area. So I am minoring in Spanish for the health professions and I'm also majoring in neuroscience. So I was looking for something academically first, which I know some people pick location, but I was kind of looking for like something academic and then I knew I wanted to do it in the summer. Um, and I knew that I wanted it to be academic. So then put those two together and it came out to be perfect. Uh, this program was like, kind of like tailored for all of my interests. While I was there, I took two classes, and then a research portion, because that's kind of what the program allows for. I took sensation and perception, which is a neuroscience prereq. Yeah, it kind of like had the exact same title, so I was like, okay, this is a sign. And then I also had I think I had a like a history, like just gen ed that I needed to do, and they had Spanish history and civilization, so that kind of counted for my gen ed as well. And that class was entirely in Spanish, so it kind of helped me get to like speak Spanish more. And my teacher would just walk us around all these different museums. You could see in this picture, she wanted to show us really authentic like Spanish food in the summer. So she went to the grocery store and kind of rated them above a bunch of like canned, I don't remember what it was, like olives, gazpacho, tortilla, canned like other things. And she just brought it to class one day and just like laid it all out. She took us wine tasting. She took us everywhere. And so I got to really immerse in the Spanish language. And these classes are either Monday, Wednesday classes or Tuesday, Thursday classes. And they were 3 hours in length each with like a break in the middle. So it wasn't too bad. And then the rest of the day is just for you. And then for the com the research portion, I was placed in the based off your interest, they kind of have a list of things for you to do, which is limited. Like they have things that are for more proficient Spanish speakers and things for less. So they matched me with this research that was in Toledo, which was like maybe an hour train outside of Madrid, where I'd have to go once a week. Um, and the only requirement for this was 10 hours remote and site combined. So I would go for maybe like 6 hours one day and then do a little bit of work on the side. Um, and it wasn't anything too crazy. It was pretty basic data analysis, but my research was about pain tolerance and on healthy individuals and then how they can take that information and apply it to paraplegic people because I was at the paraplegic hospital in Toledo. So they were kind of looking as to like relative pain, how to adjust different treatments for different people, especially in the hospital. This was clinical experience, so people were actually coming in. I was able to like help out with the experiments on them, like testing. I was a test subject also at one point. They were putting hot plates on me, testing my pain tolerance, heat and cold. And then I also was able to learn a stats analysis program called JASP, which I actually taking Psych 343 right now. I'm using the exact same program. So it was kind of cool to get that experience beforehand. And a lot of places do use stuff like that. So it was a very real like it was a good research experience. And I actually keep in touch with the PI. He knows people that I used to work with, because I guess the pain community is very small. And yeah, so he sends us like, oh guys, this is what the research is up to. We say like just checking in to this day. And that's him in the corner. Um, we went to go get gelato after. The food scene in Madrid, it's super light and super tasty. They have a bunch of like cute small tapas everywhere. Uh, they have cafes every single place you look. On every corner, there's maybe three, four cafes, which is honestly my favorite. Every morning I had a cappuccino in my hand going to class. Also per pretty affordable price. It was like probably like a €3 like cappuccino. They're known for their chocolate and churros, their charcuterie boards. You can see the little tapa that they like just give out like at like anywhere that you go, really. And then they have in the summer this drink called Tinto de Verano, which is like lemon Fanta wine combination that they just have on tap. So very fun, very unique flavors. Excursions, a lot of people wonder um where can I go on the weekends? They see all these people that, oh, I thought they were just going to one country. How did they end up in all these places? Well, first of all, the program took us, they had a designated weekend, like a 4-day weekend that they took us to Valencia. So that had included like meals, or actually I think we covered our own meals, but it covered like hotel, transportation, and stuff like that. They gave us a little tour around. We got to explore, which was very cool. Um, and then I went a little bit beforehand with my family to Barcelona. I did a day trip to Cordoba, and then I did a weekend trip by bus to Portugal. It was an 8-hour bus overnight, but it's okay. We made it. Didn't have to get a hotel for that day. Um, Porto was probably the most beautiful city. Madrid, I could have stayed in it every single weekend, and I only left 2 weekends, I guess, Porto and Cordoba for the whole 6-week period. But it was lovely. Like I honestly enjoyed staying in Madrid, but these small little tastes of like other places was a whole different world that wasn't that far away. And these are the people that I met as well. Lots of good people. These are some more pics. I went to a lot of these places have like a lot of social things built in and it's very easy to find out about. So I went to a concert, I went to the Sunday flea market that they have. The train system was so easy to use. Every street is so beautiful and scenic and everything's pretty walkable. Like I think I probably walked almost every single street in Madrid at one point. That pictures of the garden. They're very famous. I forgot what it's called. It's been it's been 6 months. It's already gone. Um, Very famous like main like huge like green area that they have in the city. This if the picture on the right, the guy standing on the far right, we had not known him before. Those are two people from my program. We met this guy just like out and about one day, and then he ended up showing us around the city and like was very nice to us. So lots of like non-program friends were made as well. I think we also met somebody at the concert that we stayed in touch with. But overall, I would say that that was probably one of the most amazing experiences of my life. Like it's like the freedom that you feel going to college, but like even more so because you're so far away from like other like people like monitoring you, like your parents and such. It taught me to really not take things so seriously and to break the fourth wall. I don't know if Spain's different than other countries, but we were making friends with everybody and anybody. We were making friends with waiters, waitresses, like the people at the shawarma shops. Like these people are all just so willing to talk to you and tell you about their lives and stuff if you let them, if you like give them the opportunity to. And it's not weird there. Like I feel like in America it's a little bit weirder. Um, Along with this, going up and just sparking conversation with random people meeting like in the streets gave me a lot more confidence in myself and a sense of responsibility as well because you realize that you have to conduct yourself in this way and people are looking at how you're interacting. So it's like there's a lot more on you and the image that you're projecting that you have to think about as an American as well, like being respectful, being interested in their culture and being very nice. Um, it also taught me a lot about what is going on in the world. I feel like it's very easy to head down here in our academics and in Chicago and just stay in tune with our little bubble. It's even hard to learn about other events happening in America. I guess not as much recently, but like there's very limited, you have a very limited scope of knowledge. Um, a small example of what I was made more aware of is the amount of Latin American and North African immigrants in Spain and all their different stories of as to how they got there. I think I probably met more Latin American Spanish speakers there than I did Spain Spanish speakers or like Spanish people because and so I didn't have to use vosotros or anything, which was kind of good for me because I don't know that conjugation that well. But it was very, very interesting to see like Spain's international relations and how they give citizenship to Latin American countries and then the North African immigrants and why they're there and stuff like that. Um, Advice I would give is just walk around, just go and walk around anywhere you want to go. Like it's going to be so much more better than like taking an Uber or a taxi, which you if you need to, you need to, but suggest walking around. I'd also give the advice of don't pack too much. I think I almost didn't fit everything in my suitcase going home, and I already knew not to pack that much, but you'll probably end up with a lot. And I did this entirely on my own. I didn't know anybody there, and it was also through Minnesota, so I was the only UIC student. I met so many people. It was just kind of putting myself out there. So like if going with somebody's what's holding you back from going on like a study abroad, I would just say just do it because these people are our age. They talk like us. They have similar interests. You'll make a friend at least along the way. So yeah, that was my presentation.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I thank you, Claire. Students, this is your opportunity to ask them questions. So right now in the chat, if any of you would like to please ask them a question, they're more than welcome to, or more than happy to answer anything you have. So in the chat, feel free to put some questions right now for them. What questions do you want to ask Clara? And you can ask something general for both of them to answer. If you have a particular question for one of them, absolutely go for it. All right, so we have a question from Arushi. Is it possible to do a whole semester abroad as a neuroscience pre-med? Great question.
We have the Copenhagen Neuroscience program that you can look at and then talk with your advisors. So there are options.
Absolutely. I don't know. You did a summary. We were talking when you were working with me in this, and like there is absolutely a capacity to do that. So for those of you who are pre-professional, sometimes it feels like it's easier to do summer. It often is in a sense, but the model you have to have is like, if you want to do it, we will help make it happen for you. Like you can make it happen. I think it's easy to make excuses. So like Arushi, I totally understand the idea of like, oh, like there's all these things that are like seemingly in my way to go abroad during a semester, but you can make it happen. And it's just about like articulating like your desire to want to go. And like Jennifer and myself and Steve, like we would work with you in terms of like, here's what you would do with your classes, here's what you should take abroad and what you should not take abroad, right? Like we can help make it happen. So it definitely is something that you can do. I think it's easy to get like in your head about like, oh, it'll never happen, which is not true. Like you can absolutely go abroad if you want to go for a full semester. Now you may have to make compromises in certain ways, but it's not going to ultimately compromise your end goal of being a physician. So you have to understand that like you'll be able to get to that route, but if you want to go abroad, I think you'll learn that you can make it happen a semester, and you'll probably be okay with some of the compromises you'll have to make in terms of maybe one of your semesters a little harder than it would have been otherwise. But for going abroad, as you can hear from Ida and Claire, it can be like a really transformative experience. And you don't want to be someone like me who wanted to go abroad and was just too chicken to do it and like regrets not going. Because that's like my biggest what if from my college experience is like having if I got because I really wanted to, I was just too lazy and didn't really like actually try to make it work. So that's my advice to you. I don't know if Ida, Claire, or you want to chime in at all, but I know it's more of like a logistics question, but I definitely would encourage students to go abroad.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, what else do we have? Who's got other questions? We got to have other questions. We can ask some questions. We don't want to ask them. We want you guys to ask some questions.
Mm-hmm.
What questions do we have? Don't be shy.
I think there's
They'll
another
ask.
one in the chat. I think that
Oh,
one's
there
more
is? I must have
Colleen
missed it.
question.
Yeah, when it comes to your senior year, and I guess it all depends on where you are in your trajectory of your courses. So if you do not have gen eds left, this could be harder to do a semester as a senior year if you need those upper level bio courses. A lot of that has to do with the fact that there's a sequence that's happening that you need to make sure that you're following. And some of the programs cannot necessarily always guarantee that you could take that. So senior year, I think it's a little bit more challenging than say considering your sophomore year or junior year. In addition, you don't want to go your last semester because we would have to, when you go abroad, grades don't come in like they do in the United States where you only have, faculty only give you, here like, 2 weeks and you have to have your grades in. In Europe, it's 2 to 3 months before I'll even get a transcript. maybe if I'm lucky. Sometimes it could be 6 months. So if you want, it wouldn't be your last semester, definitely not, because won't be able to graduate because you won't have your grades until probably the end of the summer.
Does anyone have a question for the students? I'll get to Patricia, I'll get to your question about biology as a pre-med and what study abroad locations are available. But does anyone have a question for Ida and Claire right now? This would be a good time to ask them first questions. There's got to be questions for them. Feel free to voice it out too if you want to. While we're waiting for questions, Ida and Claire, I'll ask both of you a very quick question. Ida, what's the one food you miss the most from Spain? And Claire, what was your favorite wildlife sighting that you had?
I'm gonna just say I love the little fruit shops there, so I think I always had an Aju, very specifically Aju pear in my purse. That's probably what I missed the most because I couldn't find them when I got here, except for like one Pete's Market in the south side. So,
Awesome.
As for wildlife, I don't, it was crazy. Every day I would open my door and there'd be something new outside. There was lizards inside the house sometimes, which is it happens. Not ideal, but I think the manta ray has to be the craziest one because it looks like the photo is zoomed in, but it was really like 15 feet away from us. And
Wow.
we were in the water snorkeling with it. Just crazy experience.
How big is the manta ray again to remind those who are not familiar with how big they are?
Like the size of a large car or van. Like they're like 15 feet lo like wing to wing, I guess sometimes.
That is absolutely insane.
I went to Panama with students last spring break and I got to see a baby sloth.
They're
Yeah.
cute. They're everywhere in Panama and Costa Rica. It's crazy because
Sloths are
like you hear
everywhere.
about them, but you don't imagine them actually being everywhere.
So, I think there's a question about transportation and to the destination. Um, so what's included in the price? If you go, it all depends on the program that you go on. But plane tickets are usually not included because you, like as Ida, went early and with her family and Claire, could just traveled afterwards. So the international ticket, plane ticket is your responsibility, but we have on our website everything that you are responsible for paying for and things that are covered in the program price. Things on the ground, depending on the program, might all be included.
I would also like to add, I used credit card points to book my flight, so I didn't have to pay for it actually. So there's ways to really reduce your flights like credit card points or airline miles.
Amazing. Patricia, for your question, I would absolutely recommend that you schedule an appointment with Jennifer or myself because we would definitely be able to help you understand like whether a semester or summer would be better for your situation. So please make an appointment with us. We'd be more than happy to talk about possible locations you could explore as a pre-med. And whether a summer or fall or spring would be your best fit. So definitely something that would be great to talk through in an appointment. You can do that on iAdvise for sure. Oh, great question, Sydney. Claire and Ida, how did you deal with missing home? If you did miss home.
For that, I feel like it's a little hard because I did it as a junior, I studied abroad, and then I would see my friends like posting online or talking in our group chats, and it is a little difficult seeing your friends hanging out and doing all this stuff without you. But it's also a great way to make friends because everyone that is also studying abroad with you is also looking to make friends. So for me, I made friends there because I like rock climbing and I just wanted to go rock climbing after school one day. There's a rock climbing gym across the street from the school. And I just had my rock climbing shoes like in my water bottle pocket on my backpack. And then like 8 people came up to me on the first day of classes. They were like, "Oh, do you rock climb? We should go." And we made this big group chat, and those were all of my friends. So I feel like as long as you're true to yourself and try and continue to do things that you enjoy doing regularly, you'll still make a good group of friends. And everyone back here was also jealous of my experience. So I think it goes both ways. You're missing them, and everyone here is missing you.
yeah, I would also like that's kind of a very good way to put it. Like, and like I did, my friends were like, oh, like, when are you coming back? And then it's like some people that go to different schools, like, you're just missing them in the summer, like, they leave, so you don't end up seeing them, or like, you get back and you're like, nobody talked to me for like a week, and so you just like then don't see them. But I think just like I tried, because sometimes you get so busy that you don't even realize like what's going on. Like, do I miss them? And when you actually stop to think, you're like, oh, like I miss my family. I think like being intentional about texting them and calling them. Like, I think I was calling my mom maybe like at least once a day. I had some friends that I like scheduled like FaceTimes with. It's basically kind of like going from like not living at home to like living at like college. Like, this kind of like that same type of thing. But I think just like reaching out a lot helped. And then finding a good group of people is also keeps your mind off of things.
I see another question about the workload with classes. I feel like it was
Oh,
manageable.
I think Pat's talking. Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize I wasn't muted. Yeah, basically, Claire, I was just about to say um, the question from Marushi in terms of how would you compare like classes there to classes here in terms of workload?
Yeah, I would say it depends on the course, honestly, but the professors know that you're studying abroad. They know that you are trying to experience the country and have a good time. And both of our programs had a weekend excursions built in. And I think most of them do have weekend excursions, and the professors are understanding of that. So while you are doing a lot of work still, it's for me at least, it was a different style of work. It was a lot more in-class work and group collaboration than just go home and read this textbook. We weren't just going home and reading textbooks. And the professors from my program also understood that we had field trips built in. And those field trips that were built in, where we were collecting data for our river ecology class, that counts as coursework and homework. So they weren't trying to overload us. They wanted us to get a good sense of what was happening in the course, but not overwork us.
And I also think because the classes are so long, they're 3 hours, like you get in class time and out of class time in that 3 hour chunk. So I had very minimal like assignments. Like, I think I had maybe two papers due the whole 6 weeks. Like, it wasn't like taxing or anything.
Awesome. Yeah, we have one last question before we'll wrap things up. So, was it really difficult transitioning back and having a hard time adjusting, especially with like the food or the environment? How was your transition back from your experiences?
It's sad. It's really sad because I was living with the family there. I mean, she welcomed me into her house. She would cook for us every day. She's so good at cooking. She was like the best cook ever. And then I came back and it was like, oh, I have to cook for myself. And in Costa Rica, the host families do your laundry for you. And it's like, I have to do my laundry. And I think just going from, it's also kind of like the reverse culture shock. Like you get culture shock when you go there, but then coming back, people would say stuff to me and I would respond in Spanish, even though my Spanish knowledge is very limited. But I was still feeling that because it was just such a default thing. But it's difficult coming back, but it's also nice because there were a lot of things that I missed about being here.
I think my difficulty came from like coming back to a little bit more structure, because aside from my classes every like in that block of time, like I did not have anything else to do. Like, when you come back here, there's more extracurriculars, there's like the responsibility of I was in an apartment, so I was in the dorms setting, so I had like breakfast and um dinner covered. But like coming back and having to like grocery shop, or like needing to like do other things and not just go out and explore whenever I wanted to, and like was kind of different for me. Also, like I feel like readjusting my mind to like not everywhere is explorable here, and like not being able to like walk as many places was kind of hard. But like, I don't know, you it's like muscle memory. You just got to get back into it. Coming back to the city was just it just took a little bit of time. And then coursework, low key, I was very like shocked by how much I had to do coming back here, but like again, it's a learning curve, you get back into it.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you all for your questions. Uh, that's going to wrap it up for us. So, first off, on behalf of Colleen and Jennifer and myself, thank you, Ida and Claire, for presenting and doing an outstanding job, just sharing your experiences and being amazing advocates for study abroad. Students, I hope you enjoyed hearing about from the not obviously about the students or just in general about the process of studying abroad. We hope that after today you feel more empowered and compelled to want to pursue this amazing opportunity. And keep in mind, Ida and Claire would be more than happy to continue the conversation. If you want to reach out to them, if either you want to put your contact in the chat, I'm sure the students who are still here would love to reach out if they still have questions for you about or just want to learn more about it. So,
And
any
Claire
closing
is
remarks?
employed by the study abroad office,
Yeah,
so she has a dual role where you can schedule an appointment with her too.
there you go.
Mhm.
All right. Any closing remarks from you, Colleen, or are we all set?
And, again, please feel free to reach out. You can email sao@uic.edu or feel free to and make an appointment with Claire, and we can work together in finding you a program that fits your academic goals and where you see yourself traveling in the world. So thank you.